a scientist.
Suffice it that the blood of 1,000 men and women was spilled within these walls. Limbs twisted and broken. Eyes gouged from bloody sockets. Flesh burned black.
Please. You await the dead. In death, there are no accidents, no coincidences, no mishaps, and no escapes. What you have to realize is that we're all just a mouse that a cat has by the tail.
The number you have reached, 911, has been changed to a non-published number.
So we're going to talk about your book, Secrets of the Holy Lance, the Spear of Destiny in History and Legend. Jerry, the first question that I guess I really have to ask is, what got you involved in working on this new project? I realize here recently in modern times, what with the Da Vinci Code and things like that there's a general trend towards sort of questioning or wondering about these mythic elements of Christianity, and definitely the Spear of Longinus is one of them. What do you have to say?
Well, I've been very keenly interested in the subject for a very long time. Like, I read The Spear of Destiny by Trevor Ravenscroft when it came out in the early 70s. I read Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and Messianic Legacy when it came out. I have been in alternative religion mode since high school, so it was an area that I was relatively familiar with. As it turned out, I was working on the book I'm currently writing, which is Chemtrails, HARP, and Weather Warfare, the military's plan to draft Mother Nature. I was writing it this time last summer, and somewhere around September last year, my publisher called me and said, hey, look, right now I'm selling Trevor Ravenscroft's Spear of Destiny and these two books by Howard Buchner on the subject, and they're really selling well for me, but I didn't publish them, so I'm only getting pennies per copy. But if I had a book I published, I'd be making dollars per copy. You want to write a book about the Spear of Destiny for me? I went, well, Sure, why not? What the heck? It's a topic I've been interested in. I know about it. I could do this. And he goes, okay, I want it in 2 months.
Let me.
And I about flipped at that point because it took me 2 years to write the HARP book.
Yeah.
So when he said I want it in 2 months, I went okay, and I immediately called my buddy George Picard. George Picard wrote Liquid Conspiracy, JFK, LSD, the CIA, Area 51, and UFOs. Which was essentially about the aftermath of Operation Paperclip. Paperclip brought Nazis to the U.S. at the end of World War II, and so we cut a deal where he wrote the Nazi stuff, and originally it was going to be he wrote the Nazi stuff, and I was going to write everything else, and it didn't really quite work out that way. George would write his first drafts and pass them over to me, and I'd add to them. And I'd write my first drafts and pass them over to George, and he'd subtract from them.
Let me clear up something real quick for the listeners out there that don't know what the Holy Spear is. Basically, if you look back in the New Testament, around the book of John, I believe it is, there's everyone knows about the spear that pierced Christ's side after he went, ascended, his spirit left his body. This is the spear that we're talking about, this historical spear, this holy relic that has supposedly been passed down. Apparently a Roman soldier there at the crucifixion used this spear to pierce Christ's side, I guess to determine whether or not he was still alive.
Well, and basically to prevent him from having his knees broken or his feet broken or something like that. In crucifixions, the centurions would break the legs to ensure death, and so to prevent Christ from suffering any more further mutilation.
Well, the problem we run into now is there's so many people that claim that they have these things. You know, we got one in Vienna, one in Poland somewhere, right, and one in where's the other one?
Armenia, the Vatican.
Okay, yeah, the Vatican. Okay,
Which one's the one
so
of these spears?
which is the real one? And now I know from your book that one of them was actually a piece, like a splintered piece or something like that, of another one that was a replica that built in part of the actual spear. I don't know. Where is a good place to start with this? I just wanted to give people a background of what it was.
I think a good place to start, now that we've established what the spear is, the topic we have here is an object that is a relic from the Passion of the Christ, the spear that was used to pierce his side. And there is a belief in relics that is universal on this planet. Virtually every religion has some idea of that relics are not just mementos, but actually are metaphysical. They are supernatural in nature. In that the belief is that the relic, particular. Let me start again slightly. In the Catholic Church, they class three classes of relics. A first-class relic would be an actual piece of the saint or prophet, such as an arm bone
or a finger bone or something like that.
Right. A second-class relic would be something intimately associated with the saint or prophet, such as a sandal.
Right.
And then a third-class relic is something brought to the shrine where the relic is kept and is touched to the relic, and it picks up a bit of the magic and becomes a relic in its own right.
Which would be the Spear of Destiny.
Well, now the Spear of Destiny was used to pierce the side of God. It was used it penetrated the Word made flesh, and so there's a lot of Christian magic involved here. And there's in Christianity and most other religions, there's an idea that the natural world we live in is the subservient or the junior reality. The real reality, the senior reality, is really the supernatural, where God lives, where the angels live, and that we, as imperishable, immortal spirits, we really live in the supernatural, but we are currently housed within the natural world, and so our senses only tell us about the natural world, and it's only with miracles that we get a sense of the greater reality. Now, with the spear, the spear is believed to be you might say a leak point. It's a crossover point. It was an object that by being in contact with the Christ is imbued with some sort of supernatural power that the world of God reaches through, the universe of God reaches through to us through it. And so there has arisen a legend about it, and the legend goes, whosoever possesses this holy lance and understands the powers it serves holds in his hand the destiny of mankind for good or evil.
And over the centuries, quite a few prominent individuals have held this spear, including Constantine, one of my favorites from history, and Charlemagne, so on and so forth. Boudicca, the Celtic warrior princess, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. A lot of major folks, and Americans aren't real hip on European history, particularly German history, and so most Americans are really unfamiliar with the Holy Roman Empire and the what happened there and who these great people were. But you mentioned some of these names to Europeans, and they are like, struck. Mm-hmm. And these include things like Frederick Barbarossa. Most Americans have never heard of Frederick Barbarossa, but he is like the living embodiment of the German people. Many people over the years have commented that Barbarossa is Germany, Germany is Barbarossa.
Which is, of course, also a name prominently used in the Nazi regime. Barbarossa means of the red beard. Am I correct about that? Yeah.
Exactly. Hitler was a huge fan of Barbarossa. One of his houses was named Barbarossa. The invasion of Russia was codenamed Barbarossa.
Yeah. So it's
so we've kind of jumped a bit here. Let me go back. Okay, so we have this concept of a relic, and the concept of a relic is universal. I mean, it's Jews, Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, they all have this idea that the relic is more than just a memento, that it is a supernatural item. With this particular relic of the Passion, there are several of them, because there are several stories about where the centurion who pierced the Christ's side went after the crucifixion.
That would be Longinus.
Yes. Now, in the gospel, in the accepted canon, he is not named. We simply know that a centurion stepped forward, pierced the side of the Christ, and immediately out came blood and water.
Right.
And in another gospel, it's recorded that he said, truly that is a righteous man. In another gospel, he said, truly that man must have been the Son of God.
Right.
In non-canon, that is in the Apocrypha, in one of the lost books of the Bible, we get a lot, in several of them, we get a lot more information, particularly the Gospel of Nicodemus, which is also known as the Acts of Pilate. And in that one, it names that his name is Gaius Cassius. Later, to that was added Longinus, so he's now known as Gaius Cassius Longinus. There are... One story goes that he stayed in the Holy Land and became that he had been an elderly centurion, put on light duty. Basically, he was an intelligence officer. He was sent to follow Jesus around and report back on what this guy was doing.
Right.
By the time of the crucifixion happens, he's actually on Jesus' side and perhaps even teetering on the brink of becoming a Christian. When he's going blind, he has cataracts. When he pierces the Christ's side, the blood and water comes out, splashes in his eyes, cures his blindness, and that miracle immediately converts him over to being a Christian. He becomes a Christian, proselytizes, and in turn ends up on the government's bad list, and in fact is executed in Caesarea, a port city named after Caesar.
Right.
In that version, his spear remains in the Holy Land and is on display in Jerusalem to about 600. Somewhere around 400 or 500, the tip of the spear is broken off, and the tip is given to a Frankish king, I think Baldwin, and he takes it back to France, and that tip remains on display as seen in various places up until the French Revolution, and then it vanishes. The body of it is seen in Jerusalem until 600 or so, 640, 660, and then Jerusalem is overrun by the Muslims, and it vanishes until 1400. Around 1430 it turns up, and the way it turned up is the caliph who ruled all of the Muslim world died and left two sons and no clear successor. So the two sons fight a war between each other to become the caliph. Of course, one wins and one loses. The one who lost goes to the Christians, and he goes to the Knights Templar. The other name for the Templar Knights is the Hospitaller Knights of St. John. And as they're the Hospitaller Knights, they give him hospitality. And so they put him up for a while, and then they realize that he's kind of a hot potato, and they send him to Rome, to the Vatican, and he becomes the Pope's guest. Well, the winning brother takes exception to this because he realizes that his brother could tell the Christians a great deal that he doesn't want them to know. So he buys his brother back with an obscene amount of gold and jewels and throws in the Holy Lands.
What a throw-in do.
As part of the ransom.
Let me pause right there for just a second and give our call-in number to our listeners. That number's 336-996-1596. Again, that number's 336-996-1596.
Okay, go.
So that spear ends up in the Vatican, and it's still there. As last I heard, a couple hundred years ago, they had a number of these relics that were too precious to have on display, and so they created a ceremonial throne, and each it has a roof over it, and each corner of the roof is held up with a pillar, and a different relic was walled into each of the pillars that holds up this decorative roof over the Pope's throne, and so that's where it's been for the last couple of hundred years. Now that's the one that's in the Vatican, and it's most if you go to the online Catholic Bible, that'll tell you a great deal about that one. And then there's the one in Armenia. This story goes that Longinus, after the crucifixion, went east, following in the footsteps of Paul, and ended up in Turkey and what is today Turkey and Armenia. And there is that one was found, again, about 1400, found by Crusaders, and this is kind of a wild story. There was a fellow who is now known as Saint Bartholomew. When he was just a Crusader named Bartholomew, they were in a Turkish town, I forget which one offhand, and they're completely surrounded by a much larger Muslim force. They're besieged, and they're expecting to get slaughtered at any moment, and they need anything that's going to tip the battle in their favor. And Bartholomew says that St. Andrew came to him in a dream and told him that the spear of Christ, the spear of Longinus, was under the floor of the church, and they should go to the church and dig up the floor, and they'll find the spear. Well, they did this, and they spent all day digging and didn't find it. And the leader of the Crusader force is just about to kill Bartholomew. And he goes, "Wait a minute, I know where it is," and he walks over and picks it up. This is now in a little church in Armenia, and they only bring it out about once every 80 years for people to look at. And probably one of the reasons they do that is it's not a spear at all. It's a standard head. It's a flagpole top that just happens to be shaped like a spear.
Well.
So that's two of the major objects.
Yeah.
The most common one, the one most commonly referred to, the one that people know about, if you mention the Spear of Destiny, they think of the one that's in the museum in Vienna today. And that one has a very long and sordid story, which is the principal story of what we cover in the book, Secrets of the Holy Lance, the Spear of Destiny in History and Legend.
Mm-hmm. And there's a picture of it actually on the front cover of the book. And
exactly. Now, if you do a Google on Spear of Destiny images, if you do a Google on Spear of Destiny, you're going to discover there's a British rock band named Spear of Destiny. And if you do a Google on images, you will get images of the spear we're talking about, and you'll also get a lot of posters for the band.
Nothing like Christian relics and rock and roll.
Yeah. But if you look it up, you will see that it is a lance head. It's long and thin, and in the middle there's a gold sheath. What it is, and we're kind of jumping the story here, but it'll hang together, I'm sure. About the year 1000, I don't remember exactly when, the third Holy Roman Emperor decided that it wasn't magically powerful enough just being the spear that pierced the side of Christ. He acquired what was claimed to be a nail from Christ's cross, and he had a jeweler add the nail to the spear, and in doing that, the jeweler carved out I know there's a name for it, but I can never remember it. Now, there's a groove that runs down the center of the spear, and he carved that deeper to put the nail in. Well, he broke the spear.
I think that was called the blood groove or something like that.
Yeah, the blood groove. That's it. Okay, so they carved out the blood groove, which creates two long splinters from the original, and they make up two rather crude copies of the spear and put the splinters of the original spear into the copies. And one was given to the king of Poland, and one was given to the king of Hungary. The one that went to Poland is still there in a museum in Krakow. The one that went to Hungary has long since vanished. So when they did this, that they weakened the spear to the point where they not just wired the nail in, they actually had to hold the spear together. So they wrapped the spear with a silver sheath. Now, about 200 years later, another Holy Roman Emperor decided that the silver sheath wasn't fancy enough, and created a gold sheath to go over the silver sheath. And the gold sheath it has lettered on it in Roman or in Latin, "Nail and Spear of Our Lord."
And
that may be the object in the Vienna Museum. There are a couple of points of contention here. And the major point of contention is that the one that's there now may have been a clever forgery during World War II, and the real one may have gone to Antarctica, which is one of the principal points of our book.
That would be the secret Nazi base 211, I believe.
Exactly. Our book, Secrets of the Holy Lance, begins and ends in 1979. Because if that story is true, and I'm sure we'll detail it here after the break, that story says that at the end of the war, Hitler pulled a young colonel aside and said, "Look, I've got some stuff I don't want anybody to get. I want you to take it to Antarctica and stash it in the German Antarctic base there." This is Colonel Maximilian Hartmann. Colonel Hartmann takes it, has it put on one of the submarines in the Führer convoy, which was at least 3 subs running escaping Nazis out of Nazi Germany in the literal last days of the Nazi reign, and included Martin Bormann at the very least. These subs go to South America, drop off the high-ranking Nazis, and then they go on to Antarctica, stash 8 bronze boxes in Antarctica, and then come back and surrender themselves months after the end of the war. The story goes on that Hartmann in 1978 got the word that it was time to reform the Circle of Knights around the Holy Lance, which I'm sure I'll get a chance to expound on the other side of the break. And you can't be the Circle of Knights of the Holy Lance if you don't have the Holy Lance. So he had to go back to Antarctica and get it. So the book begins in 1979 with him rescuing unearthing the Holy Lance from Antarctica. And this was done for a couple of reasons. One of which is, most importantly, is if this is true, then the lance is not in a church, not in a museum, but is in fact in a claimant's hands somewhere. It is being used. It is an active player on the world stage. Another thing we did a literary thing. I know there's a word for it, but I can't think of it offhand. In which we begin each chapter with a dramatization. So, the chapter is nonfiction, but it begins with a little fiction piece at the beginning of each chapter dramatizing the main scene from the chapter. And we do that with the whole book. The book ends in 79, but we start the book in 79 as this literary motif of we do a fictional dramatization that sucks the reader in and sets the pace and yada yada.
Huh. And those dramatizations actually make for good reading. Not to mention the book itself is very factual and informative through and through. I mean, historically and just on a whole slew of facets, And I don't know. Let's see. What's the next question?
Well, we're pretty much coming up to that break time now.
We'll do that.
We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take a quick break. This one right here is probably gonna be a little I don't know. I'm thinking this is about a 4.5 minute break, Jerry. So we're gonna go ahead and put you on hold, and we'll be back with you guys, and we'll give you the call-in number when we return, and we'll tell you how to order Jerry E. Smith's books. And just stick around, and we'll be right back.
All right.
Omnisound Radio 1 Network wants to pick your brain. Just go to www.omnisoundradio1.net and take the 3 short question our radio survey. It's quick, it's cool, and it'll give you that warm and fuzzy feeling all over.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? It might even help make us a little better.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, right. Omnisound Radio 1 Network.
And we're back, guys. We're talking to Jerry Smith, and we're speaking about the secrets of the Holy Lance.
Still with us, Jerry?
I am indeed.
All right, great.
Give him the number real quick, Scott.
Let me give out our number real quick, and then I'll give out yours, Jerry. Let's see. Not your personal one. I'm not going to. All right. Here we go. It's 1-800-718-4514 is Jerry E. Smith to order a copy of either of these books or anything else that Jerry's done that's housed with these guys. 1-800-718-4514. I'm assuming this is a number for Adventures Unlimited Press.
That is correct.
Okay, great. And the number again, 1-800-718-4514, and that'll be an autograph copy you'll receive.
No, actually, to get an autograph copy, now pay attention here. To get an autograph copy, there are 2 authors. I co-authored this thing with George Picard, who wrote Liquid Conspiracy, JFK, LSD, the CIA, Area 51, and UFOs. So George is a tech man. George is an IT manager. And so he put up a website for us, and that is spearbook.com, SPEARBOOK, spearbook.com. You don't even need the darn W's, just spearbook.com. And at spearbook.com, you can order a copy of Secrets of the Holy Lance, the Spear of Destiny, History and Legend, autographed by both of us.
Good. Well, if you want it autographed by just you, then they can order it for the 800 number?
That's right. If they want it autographed just by me, they can order it from there. Or if they want to get it for a discount but no autograph, they can go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or any major bookstore, because it is in every major bookstore across the country.
Many paths to the same place.
But anyway, let me give our number out here. If you want to talk to Jerry tonight, you can give us a call here at 336-996-1596. That number again is 336-996-1596. And Jerry, I want to tell you, we broke our record tonight.
That's true.
We've got more listeners tonight than we've ever had.
So.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm psychic. I'm thinking it is 8,016.
Hang on, I just lost the number.
That's exactly the number.
Was that?
Yeah.
Was that
the number on the dot.
That's really weird, dude.
Jerry, get out of our heads, man.
Yeah. See, I knew you guys were going to call me tonight.
It is 8,000. That's. Are you using HARP on us, Jerry? Wow. That's amazing. That is incredible.
And speaking of special superpowers, this is just a question that that I thought about, and I guess it's jumping a little bit, but it's something I want to discuss a little bit, and that is the nature and the power of the spear itself. And you mentioned several things in the book about what the spear is capable of, and just want you to expound a little bit on that.
Oh, cool. That is one of the areas I was most interested in was trying to sort this thing out, and there are many answers to your question. In fact, I could probably spend the whole hour on it. First of all, we have questions like, was there actually a Jesus? Was there actually a crucifixion? Was there actually a centurion at the crucifixion? Was there actually a spear used in this event? You have to get yeses on all those before you can achieve having a relic of the Passion.
That's understandable.
I have a question. I want to jump a little forward here, and I know it's kind of out of context right now, but do you remember a book that came out, and it turned into a Showtime movie called Possessed, and it talked about one of the priests there. It was supposedly the real true story of the exorcism and all that unfolding. Well, the guy there in the movie, the guy that was the priest, the head exorcist, was actually in this Nazi camp thing that you described where they killed all the Nazis, and he actually taught at LSU also, and I'm wondering if this is the same guy.
Huh. That is interesting. What you're referring to there is the Dachau Massacre.
Yeah, that's
there was a doctor Howard Buchner was an MD. For many years, he taught at LSU and Tulane universities. During World War II, he was a medic, and as a medic, he was with the first team that went into Dachau prison. And what happened there was rather a black eye for America, in that when they arrived, the American soldiers took all the Germans into custody, put them in a holding area, and then went looking through the camp and were horrified at what they saw. So much so they flipped, and they went back and they shot all the Germans. Dr. Buchner was appalled by this, and in, I think it was 1982, he released a book that was the Dachau Massacre from an eyewitness point of view. Now, apparently that's what led to his being contacted by a fellow who went by the pseudonym of boy, I don't have the book in front of me.
We do.
This guy shows up and he says, "I was a submariner with the Germans during World War II. Not only that, I was part of the Fuhrer convoy. I helped move Martin Bormann out of Nazi Germany to Argentina. I also helped take 8 boxes of Hitler's personal stuff to Antarctica. And I helped recover it in 1979, and I have the log of the Hartmann expedition and a signed letter from Colonel Hartmann saying that this is a true and authentic document, and I have photographs of the stuff we recovered out of those boxes. You want to see it?" And he ended up, the submariner died in the middle of Buchner's first of 2 books on the subject, which was Hitler's Ashes, Seeds of a Fourth Reich. And then Buchner then wrote a second book in much greater detail on the Hartmann expedition called Adolf Hitler and Secrets of the Holy Lands. And his scenario is that during, and you're right, we have just skipped 2,000 years, but what the heck? What's 2,000 years between friends?
That's right.
Adolf Hitler and the Nazi inner circle were very much into the occult. And Adolf Hitler first saw the Holy Lands in either 1907 or 1910. And when he saw the Holy Lands, he was transported. He had a mystical experience. In looking at the Holy Lands, he found himself remembering a past life in which he had been one of the emperors of the Holy Roman Empire and had held the spear and had claimed the spear as his personal talisman of power. And when he came to in the Vienna Museum, staring at this thing, wearing rags because he was living in a flop house and was a totally failed artist, he went on a tear. He went on a several-year expedition through all the libraries and museums in Germany to find the truth of the spear, and became convinced that this was indeed, that the one in the Vienna Museum was indeed the Spear of Longinus. And he introduced his friend Heinrich Himmler to the spear, and Himmler flipped out over it. Himmler went so far as to create a special castle that was Wewelsburg, that was a spear castle in which every room in the castle was appointed with objects owned by previous owners of the spear. So the Charlemagne room was full of stuff from Charlemagne, and the Frederick Barbarossa room was full of stuff from Frederick Barbarossa. And this must have involved if the Nazis hadn't been stealing it from all over Europe, it would have been impossibly expensive to have acquired all this stuff.
Of course.
And in the lowest chamber in the dungeon, they created a special room for doing black magic, and they conducted all kinds of bizarre black magic rites. Now, starting 1935, Himmler had a a mock-up, a copy of the spear made, and they did these weird magic rites with this mock-up of the spear, and he created what he called the Knights' Grand Circle, which was a circle of Teutonic knights who were all dedicated to the Holy Lands.
And that, of course, I guess brings back to what I was trying to ask originally. The power of the spear itself, or the powers, I guess I should say.
Well, the legend of the spear. The legend of the spear has this rather odd line: whoever possesses this holy lance and understands the powers it serves, holds in his hand the destiny of mankind for good or evil. Mm-hmm. And the powers it serves. What might that mean? And if you're familiar with Trevor Ravenscroft's book, and Trevor Ravenscroft's book, I hate to say this, was largely plucked out of his backside. He mostly made the book up as he went. Most of the book is his primary thesis of the book is that all of the Nazi inner circle are reincarnations of bad guys from the 11th century, and that they were engaged in black magic with the spear in the 11th century, and they have come back in the 19th century to do it all over again.
Okay, well,
let me give that number again real quick. Here it's 336-996-1596 if you want to talk to Jerry E. Smith tonight. It's 336-996-1596.
Or email us at
email us at worldoftheunexplained@gmail.com.
Okay. Well, it looked like you had an email there, Scott.
I did have an email. I was just looking
Jerry.
for the point. Yeah, it's off subject here, Jerry, but it's an email from one of our listeners said that they would just like to tell Jerry that I enjoyed his book on harp very much. It is one of the best books I've found on the subject so far. For anyone wanting to know more about harp, this is a great book.
Okay.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And if you can email back that person, and everybody listening, please, if you have read either of my books, I really would like you to go to the online booksellers like Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com and post your thoughts. Put up a paragraph of what you think about the book. I would really appreciate it. It will help book sales, and that will help me buy more hamburgers.
And it's very important to buy hamburgers.
Yes.
They fuel you to write more books.
Exactly.
And I was really thoroughly impressed with Secrets of the Holy Lance, especially some of the elements that in college I took a couple of courses on early Christianity, and you talk about a lot of that in the beginning. I'm not really jumping around. It's just a point that I would make that's it's very dead on. The conversion of Constantine with the dreams, and the Arian heresy and all that, and that played a huge role in the nature of the spear and who possessed it and whatnot, what have you. But it was really fascinating stuff. So well done.
Well, cool. Yeah, that's an area like I said, the reason I accepted the challenge to write this book is because it was an area I had been studying pretty much my whole life. I've always been interested in the roots of Christianity, and so I knew quite a bit of stuff. And going into this, I spent most of the time I was researching this book, researching Constantine. And the politics of the 4th century. Yeah. Amazing stuff, absolutely amazing stuff.
A fascinating character.
And like I said, when I did my first drafts of the chapters, I passed them over to George, and he would subtract from them. I wrote about 100 pages on Constantine, and he cut it down to about 60.
Yeah, all the same though. I mean, it's really historically fascinating too. I mean, even if you're not a fan of spear lore or whatever, I mean, if you're just interested in the fall of the Roman Empire and the conversion of it to Christianity, it's a really good synopsis of what happened, and complicated yet very thorough. And
cool. Now we have two plot lines running here, or rather two big questions being answered. One was the Buchner scenario, and the other was the power of the spear. I think we can pass on the Buchner scenario for a bit and come back to it. The power of the spear is an area that, as I said, that's largely what Trevor Ravenscroft's book is about, and he concludes that it is a malignant, evil spirit, and he calls it variously the spirit of the age or the Antichrist. And so George and I were going, wow, that seems a bit off the deep end. What have we really got here? And so what we did is again, the principle, what we were mostly trying to do in the book Secrets of the Holy Lance, the Spear of Destiny in History and Legend, is to nail down the entire legend, is to get every piece of the legend in order, and then put that against the backdrop of known historical events. And in doing that, we found there was a number of running threads, a number of running scenarios, a number of powers that the spear seems to have. And first of all, invincibility. By the 1400s, everybody in Europe knows that whoever possesses the spear is invincible, and it's repeated over and over again. Queen Boadicea, Constantine, Charlemagne, Frederick Barbarossa. Everyone who rides into battle with this thing wins.
Yep.
And not just wins, but wins with metaphysics. Constantine is the most famous of this. Constantine has this famous vision, which practically every Christian knows about, and the vision in today's terms would be described as both clairvoyant and clairaudient. He saw a sign in the sky, and he heard a voice tell him, "With this sign you will conquer." He then puts the sign on the shields of all his soldiers and wins.
Yep, the Chi-Rho and the cross, I believe, right?
Yes, exactly. What he saw probably, well, it's described by, I can never pronounce this guy's name, Eubius of Caesarea.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
As being what we now know today as the labnum. It looks like a capital P superimposed over a capital X. It's the first two letters in Christ spelled in Greek.
Yeah, it's you find it a lot in Christian things in church.
I had as a child, I had a crucifix in my room with it on it. Never had a clue what the heck it was.
Yeah.
So in Constantine first has this vision, clairvoyance, clairaudience. He wins the battle. He's in Rome for a few months, and the spear talks to him. The spear tells him that Rome is no longer a good place to have his capital, and tells him to move his capital to this odd little Greek town named Byzantium. Mm-hmm. This is why we now know it as the Byzantine Empire, because he moves his capital to this odd little town. He names it Nova Roma, New Rome, and as he's laying out the city, as he's walking around the city and saying where a cathedral will go here, a park will go there, he keeps telling people, I follow in the footsteps of him who I see before me.
That's a very interesting quote of him, too.
Yeah, now this is the beginning of a long list of clairvoyant, clairaudient, and other ESP events. Charlemagne, in today's terms, had precognition. He saw battles before they took place, and so knew how to fight them. And with the spear, he won 49 out of 49 battles because of precognitive flashes.
Sort of.
Now that's supernatural, all right.
Oh yeah. Beyond.
Okay, so in Secrets of the Holy Lance, we trace this long line of supernatural events that are associated with the spear, and from this we conclude that if there really is a supernatural, if the supernatural really is manifesting through this spear, it seems to be an evil, malignant spirit reaching through the spear to control whoever it is the claimant. And when I made that realization, I realized, my God, this is the ruling ring. This is the one ring from the Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
And for the second half of the book, I kept realizing I was writing about the one true ring.
Yeah.
Eat your heart out, Frodo.
Take that, Tolkien. Anyway.
Yeah, actually, I think Himmler fits Frodo pretty nicely.
All right.
When Adolf Hitler invaded Austria and claimed the spear, I wrote, did Adolf claim the spear, or did the spear claim Adolf?
So you think that Hitler is the Frodo of the story?
No, Himmler.
Oh, Himmler.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah. You know, it's a bad allegory.
It was good, and we're gonna roll with it.
What we know is that Hitler claimed the spear, had it in his possession for about 8 months, and then orders it go on display in Nuremberg. And it was during that 8 months that he had it is when the Blitzkrieg rolled across Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And he bogged down when he put the thing on display in Nuremberg.
Huh.
You know, so that's another one of those invincibility stories. Yeah. He was invincible as long as it was in his pocket.
That's true. And then, so going by that rationale, what happened whenever the Operation Barbarossa started stalling at Stalingrad? I didn't mean to make a pun there. I think I just did that.
No, that's
Stalingrad.
Well,
Anyway.
I have to look at the timeline, but I'm pretty sure it was in Nuremberg by then.
Oh, okay.
And now this dovetails us back into the Buchner scenario, because the Buchner after Buchner made contact with this, or after this sailor made contact with Buchner and said, I was there, I got the log to prove it, Buchner tried to verify whether it was true or not, and he managed to make contact with most of the people who were claimed to have been on the Hartmann expedition. He made contact with a lot of people who were associated with them or were personally associated with Hitler. He actually talked to Arthur Axmann, the head of the Nazi youth movement. He concluded that it was true. Now, the story is absolutely wild. The story is that during World War II, Himmler did not just create this crazy castle and do bizarre magic with a mock-up of the spear. He actually got the greatest swordsman in Japan to come to Germany and make an exact duplicate of the spear.
That's interesting.
And it's the duplicate that went on display in Nuremberg. It's the duplicate that George S. Patton tried to get. It's the duplicate that was returned to Austria and is on display in the Austrian Museum today.
Well then.
And the real one went to Antarctica and is now somewhere hidden in Europe.
Oh man. That's pretty.
Let me go ahead and give that number out.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to order that book from Adventures Unlimited, that number is 1-800-718-4514. That's 800-718-4514.
Like I said, guys, it's a great read.
Our number here is 336-996-1596. If you want to call in and talk to Jerry E. Smith, that number again is 336-996-1596. I know you guys are out there.
I know.
And
don't be shy.
Don't be shy. He'll answer and field any of your questions for you. He's a really nice guy. Also, I wanted to mention.
What?
Well, actually, no, I forgot what I was going to mention. The flu does that to you sometimes. It messes with your brain. I had something
hallucinations.
I was going to actually say, and it had something. It was on point, and I don't remember what it was though.
Okay.
Go right ahead, Jerry. Sorry about that.
Okay. We're coming up on the break again, and so I don't want to launch any long-winded thing. But if you got any quick questions, I'll bounce around there. I'll just stand here and stare out the kitchen window.
I don't know if this is a really long-winded question or not, but I just suddenly thought about it that generally most holy relics, they are attributed to very positive things. They heal people, they cure the palsy or blindness or whatever, and they help you have strong children, or your dogs are much nicer. I don't know. But the spear is a really like the the opposite of that. I mean, it basically shows itself and
absolutely. This is more of the question of the powers of the spear, and we examine this negative side of the spear at great length. There are so many aspects I could go into. You know, I'm having an intellectual brownout at the moment. I had so many thoughts all at once, they just kind of crashed into a cerebral train wreck.
Oh, yeah.
Here's a question. Let us assume that this thing is not real, that none of the spears are really the spear.
Okay.
All right.
Now, the one that's in Vienna, the one that Hitler claimed, had been on display for 1,200 years before he claimed it.
Okay.
Millions of people trooped past it, stood in awe of it.
And no one never thought to pick it up.
For most of the time it was on display. It was actually in a special box hanging from the ceiling of the church, so you couldn't get it. Okay, so this thing is on display. Millions of Christians, believing it is the spear of the Christ, look at it and believe it has magic powers. Do humans have power? Is there such a thing as mind over matter?
Maybe they're
spirits.
They're supercharging it. Is that what you're saying by their belief?
You know, by millions of people believing it is something, did it become something?
That's a very good question. I mean, that's something that Scott and I have talked over many a brewski, actually. And it seems that there might be a certain amount of truth to it. You know, if people believe enough in something, then very likely. Why wouldn't it work? That's an excellent question. So, I don't know.
On that note,
that's one of the angles we're dealing with, in that the scientific evidence is that none of them are the spear of the Christ. That in fact the best evidence is there was no Christ. So if there was no Christ, then the whole thing is in a cocked hat, and yet here we see metaphysical events. Here we see supernatural events taking place. So either something is going on here. Either we are all incapable of seeing the truth, or the truth is very strange.
And on that note, we're going to take our final break. It's going to be about 4 minutes, Jerry, and we'll be back with you, and hopefully we'll take some calls.
All right. Hang
tight, Jerry.
This will not look good on a resume!
You're listening to Omni Sound Radio, presented in the Omni Sound streaming media.
We came, we saw, we kicked some serious ass.
Omni Sound.
Right here, baby.
Omni Sound Radio. You're listening to Omni Sound Radio, presented in the Omni Sound streaming media. Omni Sound.
Man, this thing f***ing smokes.
Omni Sound Radio.
And we're back
with Jerry E. Smith.
You still with us, Jerry?
I am indeed.
Okay.
All right, great.
We got our final. We're in the last leg of the interview, and I have to admit, this thing is so heavy that we could just go on and on and on about it. But I find that we most of our interviews are like that, and there's just so much to talk about. And
let me give those numbers again really quick, Jerry. You can get either his books on his website at jerryesmith.com. You can also get them at Adventures Unlimited Press. Is it AdventuresUnlimitedPress.com or AdventuresUnlimited.com?
Yeah, AdventuresUnlimitedPress.com.
Okay, and that number is
Harpbook.com. Spearbook.com. That's where you get them autographed by both of us.
Yeah.
Okay, Spearbook.com for both autographs.
Our copy is autographed by both.
Yes, our copy is autographed by both. And then there's an 800 number you can call if you just want it autographed by Jerry, and that's 800-718-4514, 800-718-4514. Our number here, if you want to talk to Jerry tonight, it's 336-996-1596. That's 336-996-1596. And I want to also say we've got free keychains available for the first 10 emails.
The keychains. You haven't
first
brought the
10. I haven't brought up the keychains in a long time. I'm trying to get rid of these things. So the first 10
really
emails to worldoftheunexplained@gmail, G as in Google, mail.com.
Yep.
Worldoftheunexplained@gmail.com. First 10 emails with names and addresses, folks, and we'll send them right out to you. We're not stalkers, I promise.
Or spammers. So
We'll
send that and be quiet and leave you alone. We know you're out there, so if you want to talk to Jerry, this last leg of the interview.
So I'm curious, Jerry. Are you psychic? What's our numbers now?
Actually, I overheard you guys talking to me.
That's so wrong.
The myth
that's so wrong. It's busted now.
Oh well,
that's okay.
It was a good gag.
Yeah, it was. It lasted for a while.
Now, I've got a question here from somebody asking about if it was similar to Solomon's magic. It was like a talisman equated with a sword of Aaron or Moses.
Yeah, there's a bit of that. Part of the thing is there have been these tribal spears, these symbols of power, and the religious symbols of power always either are straight up said to be supernatural or acquire a patina of supernatural as the years go by. There were a number of stories as to how the Spear of Destiny got created. One of the stories, I believe in the Gospel of Nicodemus, is that it had been given to Longinus's great-grandfather by Julius Caesar,
right.
And that it had magic powers, that it was always sharp, it never needed sharpening, it never needed cleaning, and it always had a certain luster, and there was a number of things which I don't remember offhand, but it was it was magic to begin with. And then this is followed up in another book of the Apocrypha, says that it was created by Tubal-Cain,
right.
the seventh generation grandson of Adam. That Tubal-Cain is seen in Hebraic myth as the first blacksmith. He's the prototype worker in metals, and that story goes that Tubal-Cain, of course, he has the curse of his family on him and his people are doing poorly, and one night he cries out to God to give him something to fight his enemies, and a streak of fire goes through the sky, and he follows it and finds a glowing meteorite, and he works it, and it's the first iron object ever made, and he doesn't just work it into the spear, but actually makes a spear and a sword. The sword goes on to become Excalibur.
That's and you there was something in the book, I think, about the metal itself is very
right.
You likened it to like the memory metal that they found in Roswell.
In Roswell, and what the military are currently working on. George Picard, my co-author, wrote that section, so I don't know any more than you read on it.
Okay.
To tell you the truth.
Okay.
But there's another aspect of this is the Spear of Phineas. Phineas was I think a Jewish patriarch or a prophet. I think he's got prophet status. At any rate, he goes back.
Yeah,
I think
he is one of the prophets.
This is actually in almost direct answer to the caller's question, in that the story goes is that Phineas, it's spelled with a PH, so I'm guessing it's pronounced as an F.
Yeah.
Might be Phineas, but it's probably Phineas. As you can tell, I'm pronouncing biblical names is completely beyond me.
It's beyond a lot of people. Go on.
That spear became a symbol of the power of his tribe and of his priesthood, and went down to, I believe, Aaron, and eventually, I think the last time anybody saw the thing, it was in the hands of Herod. So it's possible that that spear became Longinus's spear. It's not bloody likely, but it's possible. So some people put that chain of custody forward as it. We do not take sides on it. We introduce. Again, the purpose of the book is to list the entire legend, is to put because nobody's ever done this before. There's never been one book that wrote the entire legend.
Right.
Trevor Ravenscroft wrote that piece of the legend dealing with the Nazis. Howard Buchner wrote that piece of the legend dealing with the after the Nazi eras, the spear going to Antarctica. But nobody's ever tried to put the whole thing together before.
Right. And not only is the spear powerful now, but it's like you said, from the very beginning, it's an object of wondrous might, I guess. So the legend is quite rich and old. Scott.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything?
No, I just want to give the number again.
Oh, okay.
It's 800-718-4514 to order Jerry E. Smith's book. That's direct from AdventuresUnlimitedPress.com. You can get it there, or you can get it on the website, JerryESmith.com, or you can go to SpearBook.com and you can get it signed by both authors, him and his co-author, George Picard.
That's a nice deal.
Yeah, definitely.
Alrighty.
Now, I also saw you were offering, or at least that you were at one point in time. I don't know if this offer is still good. You can tell me. There were 3 books available for a reduced price. It was Harp, the Spear book, and then another book I think that maybe Picard wrote.
Yeah, George's first book, Liquid Conspiracy.
Okay.
I believe that's available from both websites, and that's my first book, George's first book, and our combined book. Heck of a deal. It's like you're saving, I don't know, $10 or $12 on the total price.
Oh yeah,
we're all about a good deal here in K Vegas.
Oh yes.
Which is the name.
I don't want to sound like a mercenary that my only purpose here is in making money.
Oh no. Hey, you've got to make a living, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. I'm pulling out my soapbox and stepping up. I've been a working artist my entire adult life. And when I run into other working artists who are dabblers, who do their art while they're working as lawn chair salesmen, they harass me about my crude commercialism. Well,
come on, you're selling out, man.
Don't sell out, dude.
They punch a clock. They sell their bodies to somebody else. As far as I'm concerned, anybody who's working a job is a prostitute. The only difference between a guy who's selling aluminum siding and a girl who's selling her body is she gets to lay down on the job.
Oh my gosh.
Oh God, I've got to use that later for a clip, man.
That's
a total soundbite right there, man. I've got to use that later. That is the soundbite. Oh my God.
That was the quote of the night, I think, Jerry. Anyway.
All right, that number's 336-996-1596. 336-996-1596. I know out of all of you 8,100 listeners out there, one of y'all can pick up the phone and give us a call and talk to Jerry E. Smith about either of these books or anything that you have on your mind in relation to these subjects.
It's pretty fascinating stuff, guys, and we know you're out there, so don't be shy. Anyway,
there were a number of areas in the history of this thing that we didn't get to because we kind of leapt ahead, and I doubt if we can really get anywhere with it in the last 15 minutes. I just want to kind of throw out a few things.
Okay.
We talked briefly about Constantine, and as I told you before we went on the air, the way George and I divided this thing up is George wrote Liquid Conspiracy, JFK, LSD, the CIA, Area 51, and UFOs, which was largely about the aftermath of Project Paperclip. Project Paperclip brought at least 7,000 senior Nazis to the United States, spy masters and rocket scientists, the most famous of which was Wernher von Braun, who went on to head NASA. The CIA was essentially founded by Nazi spy masters. We trace that the Nazism did not go away. As Mike Rupert put it, World War II did not end. It just underwent a change of venue.
Right.
You know, we today see the Fourth Reich around us. The United States has perfected fascist dictatorship by having a perfect fascism without a discernible dictator. What we have in the U.S. is we have thousands of dictators, and what I find truly amazing is when I was in school back in the 50s and 60s, they taught me that the Soviets were evil, the evil empire. That Sovietism was bad.
And now we're doing the things that the Soviets did.
You know, they never once told me what the word Soviet meant.
It means council.
You know what Soviet means?
It means like council or something like that, right?
It means rule by committee.
Yeah.
And that's what we're about today.
You look in your town. You look in your county.
Oh, even in your neighborhood, if you live in one of these new developments, you've got a housing authority.
The
homeowners association. Yeah.
Right. And the homeowners association deals with the community development. But community development doesn't make up anything. They have these visioning committees that vision what your community is going to be like in 20 years, and they draft plans.
And they have the right to sue you if you don't conform to their idea of what the neighborhood is, even though it's your property.
Now, if you follow this down, if you go to your county commission or your city council and you look at what your city council members are doing, what your county commissioners are doing, or county supervisors are doing, they are sitting there drop-jawed most of the time because they don't make any decisions. Staff makes all the decisions.
Yeah.
Staff draft the resolution. Staff draft all the paperwork. They hand it to them and say, "We've done it. We've gone to the committees, and the committees have said that they have no problem with this. So here you go, vote for it." And the staff and the elected officials look at each other and go, "Well, okay," and they vote for it because they have no clue what the heck it is.
How different is that from the old Soviet Politburo, where you have you can choose choice A or you can choose choice A?
Right. You know? Well, the beauty of all this is, and I'm being very facetious here, is that there was something called back in the 50s and 60s. It was called convergence. It was to make the Soviet Union like the U.S. and make the U.S. like the Soviet Union, so they could converge, so they could become one. Huh. This was one of the grand schemes of the one world order folks, and it worked. The problem is that the Soviet Union went belly up before they could finish converging with us. But we in the immortal words of Pogo, we have met the enemy and they is us.
Yeah. So here, I guess, in the final couple of minutes of the show, here is the money question.
No, we've got 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
Well, 11 minutes.
Oh, okay.
But it may take him 11 minutes if this is the money question.
I think it's the money question. Okay. Hitler sent the spear, and so many bronze cases away. Berlin was falling to the Allies. It goes to Antarctica, Base 211. The Hartmann expedition collects these artifacts from Base 211. Where is the Spear of Longinus now?
Aha. You're right. That is the money question. and the first time I was asked that question was on the Tom Hartman show, who's a radical left winger whose politics I mostly appreciate. I'm not a liberal, but I tell people, if they'll listen, that I consider myself a recovering liberal.
Okay.
Hartman asked me that, and my response was, well, that's the end of the book, and I don't want to give the end of the book away.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
And he kind of peeled a piece of my face off for taking that attitude. So I'll tell you what in just a couple of minutes I can't give you all the research that led to this, but we looked at a number of things, and there were a number of things that we examined, and a number of stories and a number of books that we mulled over to try and see the handwriting on the wall, if you will, to see the spear seems to have a distinct after image. It turns up in history in certain ways. So we were looking for those markers, and something kind of jumped out at us. Kurt Waldheim. Kurt Waldheim was the premier, the prime minister. He was the prime minister of Austria, and he was the Secretary General of the United Nations. And he was the Secretary General of the United Nations at the time that the spear was recovered. He is the only sitting head of state that has been declared persona non gratis by the United States State Department. The United States State Department has declared that he was a Nazi that engaged in war atrocities and committed crimes against humanity, and he is not allowed in the United States.
Well,
he was an SS officer. His unit was in Yugoslavia, and near the end of the war, there was a series of events that this unit engaged in. Basically, they killed a lot of people, and they sent a lot of people to prison camps, and they really didn't care who was who. And we detail this at some length in the book to establish that this guy had some questionable background. Lieutenant Waldheim claimed that when these atrocities occurred, he was actually on leave, and he was back in Germany at the time, and he wasn't involved. And the Austrian government cleared him of it, but the American government said, no, we're not buying this stuff. So, it's what we know about the spear is that the spear, while it was the spear that pierced the side of Christ, and Christ kind of belongs to us all, the spear has been in Germany since the year 800. It has been a particularly German artifact since Charlemagne had himself dubbed the first Holy Roman Emperor with it. And the Holy Roman Empire was essentially the the Frankish Empire. It was the Franks are the people who became France and Germany. His castle was in Aachen, which is now in Germany. The artifact spent most of its life in Germany. It was on display in Nuremberg for 400 years before they speared it out of Nuremberg to keep Napoleon from claiming it and ruling the world with it.
Yeah, we wouldn't want that guy to.
Didn't he urinate on a priest or something?
Yeah, I heard a story one time. This is totally unrelated, but Napoleon apparently, during one of the peace negotiations with the Austrians, the Papal Army was there, and
wait, we've got a caller.
Got a caller. Hold on.
And you're on the air, caller. Can you tell us your name, where you're from?
Yes, my name is Laura, and I'm from Kansas.
Oh, hi, Laura.
Yeah. Hi, guys. I had a question about the spear. If it was one of the relics that was hidden away by the Templars, did they ever have possession of it?
Now, I did not write that section, so it's a little hard for me to answer.
Okay.
That section of the book was actually written by our publisher, David Hatcher Childress. He wrote a book a couple of years ago called Pirates and the Lost Fleet of the Templars. And in that, he tells the story of the Templar relationship to the Spear of Destiny, and we picked that up and put it in the book with his blessings. And so what I understand of it is I don't believe they ever had it. In the first hour, I believe I told the story of the spear that's in the Vatican. And the spear that's in the Vatican got there because it was the Caliph ransomed his brother, who was in the possession of the Vatican, who had been sent to them by the Knights Templars. So the Knights Templars negotiated the Vatican getting the Holy Lance, but I don't believe they actually had it themselves, though they may have been involved in transporting it.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Interesting.
Laura is actually going to pimp her show here.
Yep.
She does Full Moon Radio. I think she's actually contacted you about appearing on the show.
Laura, did we get a copy of the book out to you?
Not yet.
Okay.
It's good to talk to you, though, Jerry.
Okay, it either went out today or tomorrow.
Wonderful. I look forward to it.
I'm here working at AUP now, and they have the most stripped-down, non-functional email program I've ever laid my eyes on. And your email to me with your address, your address was so far down I had to scroll halfway to LA to get to it, and I just missed it the first time.
Oh, my. Well, I'm glad that you were able to do that, and this has been a very interesting show. I've enjoyed listening to it. So.
Well, great. I love your voice. I can hardly wait to spend an hour listening to you.
Oh, great. Okay, well, it's nice talking to you guys. Good luck with your show.
All right, thanks
Laura.
Bye.
Bye.
I don't know if I have time for that Napoleon urination story now.
Yeah.
It really has nothing to do with the spear.
The only I know very little about Napoleon. He was not one of my favorite people. I do know a story about his little sister. His little sister kind of put. She really was the first wet T-shirt that ended up very, very sadly. She was 17, 18, something like that, and Napoleon held a fancy dress ball, and she went to the fancy dress ball wearing a gorgeous white gown that was form-fitting with no undergarments, and spent the entire night having people pouring champagne on her.
Oh, my God.
So she had the whole wet T-shirt look going the whole night at the ball. She was the belle of the ball, got pneumonia, and died 2 weeks later.
That's so weird.
Oh, that's awful.
It has nothing to do with the Spear of Longinus. But,
no, well, neither does your Napoleon.
Yeah, but it was God's judgment.
Maybe that was it. Oh, man.
Using the spear in a wrongful manner.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's, yeah.
But anyway, so that really has nothing to do with the show. Maybe one day I'll get to that story, Scott, but not tonight.
Well, we've got 2 minutes left. Any final wrap up? Let me give these numbers out real quick here, or this number. I'm not going to take any calls now. That number is 800-718-4514. 800-718-4514 to order this book with Jerry E. Smith's signature on it, or you can order it from AdventuresUnlimitedPress.com or JerryESmith.com or SpearBook.com if you want both signatures of Jerry E. Smith and his co-author George Picard.
So many ways to get in the book, and it's such a good read.
Right, and you can go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or your favorite bookstore. And if you go into your favorite bookstore and they don't have it, ask them to order it for you. So most bookstores can get it within 3 days, and that will help me because usually they have to order a book for somebody to go and they order 3 of them, and so that'll help get the exposure out.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's right.
How is David, by the way? I haven't talked to him in a while. David Childress?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
David is very good. They are leaving Thursday to go back to Egypt. They're shooting a documentary, which we will be selling through AUP, and they're hoping to get it on like the History Channel. Chris Dunn, who wrote The Giza Power Plant, is in Egypt now. They're joining him there to shoot this. Then they're going to be back here for a very short period of time, like another week or two, and then they're off to Nicaragua and Costa Rica to look for ancient ruins in the jungle. Then they're going to be back here, and we're having a conference the first weekend in May 5, 6, and 7. We're having about 8 speakers and a gala blowout here in Kempton, Illinois, which is about 2 hours south of Chicago. You can sign up for it online at the World Explorers Club website, which is wexclub.com. That's WEXCLUB.com. WB.com.
Okay.
All right. Well,
And I'm going to be one of the speakers.
Oh, great.
Excellent.
Well, on that note, I guess we're going to pull on out of here then.
Yep. Once again, thanks to Jerry E. Smith. It's been fascinating, and you got to come back sometime, okay?
I'm always up for doing radio.
All
right,
cool.
great. Thank you so much, Jerry. You have a good night now.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Goodbye. And that concludes this week's edition of World of the Unexplained.
You've done pretty well, Scott, seeing as you have a
Oh,
flu.
man. Yeah, I feel like
You need to go
trash.
take a nap. And listen, next week we're not going to have a show, guys. Scott's going to be doing the bar.
Yeah, I'll be doing the bar.
So
all right.
email him and wish him good luck, and or just whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah. Well, I'll be taking the bar exam. Unfortunately, it's the most ungodly. I need a Holy Spear for that. That bitch.
That's true.
That's for sure. Stab that son of a bitch.
Anyway, so basically in 2 weeks.
Definitely email us, guys. If you got any story ideas, topic ideas, visit our website, worldoftheunexplained.com. Or, if you want a free keychain, email us at worldoftheunexplained@gmail.com.
That's right.
And we'll send you one.
Hey,
so
it's quite a nice little prize.
Not a bad deal. Not a bad deal. It's like a free prize out of a cereal box.
Or a Cracker Jack.
Yeah, that's
not
right.
Cracker Jack. Something nicer than that.
Yeah,
Much
nicer than Cracker Jack.
Much nicer.
Much nicer.
Well, anyway, so 2 weeks from now we will be back with
Jim Mars.
That's right. A little
From JFK, big time renowned JFK conspiracy theorist. And also, he's going to talk about the 9/11 tragedy, and he believes that government entanglement involved in that.
What's more,
what a country when you can speak about things so freely, honestly. But, so
Great.
Jim Mars is going to be with us. You don't want to miss that. And we've got some new guests, too. We'll talk about them next week, though. But basically, we've got EVP stuff coming up. We've got a movie director coming on. We've got all kinds of crazy stuff. Just check the website.
worldoftheunexplained.com.
That's right, because we're broadcasting live from
Kernersville, a small town where we talk about big things.
That's right. All right, guys, we're out of here. I'm Jay Scott.
I'm Trent Lackey. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right.